In 2018, this library competed with over 120,000 libraries and was recognized as the best small library in the entire United States. We think that the Marshall Native Gardens played a role in that recognition.
The goal of these gardens is to help visitors understand and appreciate why native plants are important to all of us, and to help visitors identify and explore hundreds of plants on display. With support from our partners, we have gradually developed 11 themed gardens on the 4.2 acres of county library grounds. Thanks to our many Marshall Native Garden Initiative volunteers, these gardens are now a reality. The kiosk is the first stop on our 12-stop self-guided tour you can take with the aid of your smartphone. The route for the tour is 1/4 miles in length, and it will take you as little as a half hour to finish. However, we suggest that you take more time reading our displays, opening QR codes, and learning about the native plants. We also encourage you to use our trails. They provide a friendly natural setting for you that takes you close to nature. Stop 2. This entry garden was installed in 2013 and was the first themed garden completed by the Marshall Native Garden Initiative, so it's a good place to begin our garden tour. The native plants on display were selected to provide year-round landscape interest, color, and texture adjacent to the library at the library's main entrance. Note that the plants selected for this garden are also in scale with the building, and that there's always something interesting to look at, no matter the season. The Native Shrubs Garden. The Native Shrubs Garden is now home to a wide selection of beautiful indigenous shrubs, with some thriving in full sun and others in partial to full shade. Those that thrive in a sunny site are located up the steps on the hill that rise towards the library building. Those that prefer shade are located behind you across the drive, where a river birch, tulip poplars, and some large willow oaks create a protective canopy. Some that are displayed are what are called the straight species, meaning like the ones you might find in the wild in our area. Others are cultivars of those wild species that have been selected by the nursery industry for desired traits such as a smaller size or a more colorful flower. Stop 4. The Water Catchment Project. Gardening requires a lot of water, but our volunteers will tell you that this water catchment project helps in a big way to water our gardens. This innovative solar-powered rainwater catchment project was completed in July 2019 with funds from a couple of grants. It was constructed with design and oversight by the Madison County Soil and Water Conservation District. It collects water from the roof of the library and stores it in 3 large underground cisterns. This water distribution system is powered by a solar pump and carries water to 5 spigots located in various places in our gardens. Stop 5. The Butterfly Garden. Butterfly and moth caterpillars, as well as immature stages of many different insects, have different favored host plants that they eat in order to complete their life cycle and fully mature. Most of us do not realize that most of the host plants for the butterflies and moths we love are native shrubs and native trees. So it's important to know about and include host plants in your garden to support the entire life cycles of butterflies and other pollinators. It is equally important to point out that non-native plants often do not serve as host plants and usually are not even eaten by native insects or birds. So one could say that non-native plants are just taking up valuable space that a native plant could occupy, and they are not really helping support and sustain the natural environment. Welcome to the Forest Farm, a demonstration garden that shows how permaculture techniques can be used to sustainably grow a diverse collection of plants for a variety of fruits, nuts, and other foods. Some highlighted plants also are used for medicine, charcoal, and building material. Permaculture techniques used here aims to mimic natural patterns and relationships in an effort to grow plants that help sustain us, while minimizing energy consumption. These forest farm management strategies often vary and are tailored by location, resources, and climate. So this garden is intended to show you best management practices for mountain forest lands to create productive agricultural lands. Stop 7. The chestnut display. This native tree once comprised 1 out of every 4th tree in our woods, and each tree produced large numbers of chestnuts every year. Chestnuts were relied upon by humans, and they were used heavily as food by wildlife. These grand trees also produced a lot of highly valuable lumber, which you can still find in old barns. Early in the 20th century, American chestnuts were almost wiped out by an introduced fungus which caused a blight. Fortunately, due to hard work being done by the American Chestnut Foundation, blight-resistant American chestnut seedlings are close to being widely available for planting in your woodlands and gardens. We have a number of these new blight-resistant American chestnut trees that the American Chestnut Foundation has donated for us in these gardens. Stop 8. The rain garden. Rain gardens are designed to capture and absorb rainwater to reduce soil erosion and runoff. The native plants selected for a rain garden need to be able to grow in moist conditions, but they also need to survive during dry periods too. These plants add diversity to our gardens. Some also add beauty and interest to the landscape and help to sustain beneficial insects and birds. As water travels down the slope from the library building, it feeds into a French drain that is buried under the gravel path near the curb of the driveway. The drain directs the rainwater into our rain garden you see here. The lined, shallow pond that is about half of this garden provides habitat for more wildlife. Stop 9. The woodland shade garden. The winding gravel trail and locust log steps that rise from the forest farm required hundreds of hours of volunteers' effort to construct. When this garden was started in 2014, most of this part of the grounds was covered in invasive plants like Chinese privet, Asian bittersweet, and multifloral roses. So our first focus was to remove and control the invasive non-native plants and then to construct the trail. It is important to note that as we remove the invasive species plants, we quickly replace the open space with native species of shrubs and perennials. This restoration of the habitat has helped make it productive again for pollinators, birds, and wildlife. Stop 10. The native grasses garden. We invite you to relax on one of the benches or chairs on our raised deck in the center of the circle parking area. This is your opportunity to learn about native grasses. These native grasses add gentle movement to a landscape as their leaves and seed heads sway in the breeze, and they are an important food source and provide important shelter for insects, birds, and wildlife. We invite you to stroll around the perimeter of these beds and use your mobile device to scan the many QR codes on our plant markers. Stop 11. The medicinal herb garden, also the native vines garden. Welcome to our medicinal and herbs plant garden. Check out the QR codes and the many plant markers here to get more details about each featured plant. Here you will find a small sample of the sun-loving medicinal plants that have a long history of helping humans. The plants we have included in this garden were often used by American Indians and settlers to North America for a variety of healing and other uses. Many herbs, shrubs, and trees can provide medicine as well as food, drink, and other useful purposes, like dyes for clothing and salves for relief from biting insects. Stop 12. The bird garden. This popular garden contains signs that show you things that you can do to attract and support local bird populations. Things like planting bird-friendly native vines, providing a bird bath, hanging a variety of bird feeders, and installing a variety of bird nesting boxes. You can see 10 different nesting boxes in our bird garden and see the plans on how to construct and correctly place them at our website. To help you identify common birds in our area, please see the Bird Garden kiosk for a key to identification. According to the Audubon Society, most birds are sensitive creatures that are currently stressed or in decline, and many are now in danger of becoming extinct. Native birds have been experiencing population losses for decades due to significant losses in their critical habitat, and that is now being compounded by adverse environmental impacts from climate change. In the face of these environmental threats, You can help birds survive and thrive right where you live by making your yard more bird-friendly. You can start to help them by planting native plants that support the natural environment. Any piece of your property that you maintain in native vegetation or convert back to native plants can help offset habitat losses and prevent the spread of invasive plants. In addition to growing and preserving native plants, you should definitely help birds by keeping your cats indoors and reducing your use of toxic herbicides and pesticides. On the lighter side, take a few moments taking some fun photographs behind our garden's cutout board found in this garden.
Thanks for taking time to learn about the Marshall Native Gardens. Please Google us to learn more about these community-owned natural gardens and our related programs.
Stop 1. Overview. Welcome. The goal of these gardens is to help visitors understand and appreciate why native plants are important to all of us, and to help visitors identify and explore hundreds of plants on display. Our hope is that you will enjoy your time here and that you will want to come back to walk the trails, to experience the many sights, sounds, and smells of these gardens as they change with the seasons. With support from our partners, we have gradually developed 11 themed gardens on the 4.2 acres of County Library grounds. Thanks to our many Marshall Native Garden Initiative volunteers, these gardens are now a reality. You will hear repeatedly during our tour that native plants are the building blocks of our natural ecosystems. They provide food and shelter for native insects, birds, and wildlife, which have evolved with them over thousands of years, forming natural landscapes. In natural landscapes, everything is interconnected and sustainable, and these landscapes help to inspire a sense of place. Unfortunately, natural landscapes and the wildlife that depend on them are under increasing stress due to the displacement of native plants. Because we have only one planet Earth, humans are ultimately dependent on native plants and healthy environments too. Unfortunately, the distribution of our native plant building blocks are declining due to the expansion of urban and farmland development, increased land needed for transportation, the increased distribution of invasive plants, and the adverse impacts of climate change. So given all these stresses on the natural world, it makes the planting of native plants and the preservation of natural landscapes increasingly important. For more details about this entry garden, you can open the More Details QR code or go to Stop 2 at the Natural Shrub Interpretive Center.